Corporation Board regular meeting. It is January 11th, 2021. Thank you all for attending. Do I need to ask you, do I need to read? You had a disclaimer statement on the other one. I don't think I need to read it now. Just go straight into item A. It's called the order. I read it over for us. B, the citizen forum. That statement right there that's italicized. Did you have italicized for me to read it out loud, or was that just
under citizens forum?
Yes, citizen forum.
You do not have to read it, but I can tell you we have no one who has signed up.
Well, when I saw that on there, I didn't know if that was meant for.
You may, but you're not required to. Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right, well then we'll move on to C, discuss, consider, and take action on approval of meeting minutes all the way from the room.
Am I the only one having difficulty hearing?
No, I am too.
I can move this closer. Is that any better? I can hear myself better.
Can you hear it through the speakers?
I can hear it through the speakers. Is that better, Linda?
Not really. Are you able to hear me?
No, it's because they're too far away.
I'm not hearing you either.
I hear everybody else okay.
We're the loud ones.
I hear y'all fine.
Yeah, I just don't hear the people there.
Right.
What about now?
No, very faint.
Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm pretty loud in here. I don't know if that makes me. I'm deafening in here now.
Is that better?
I hear an echo.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's picking up on the speaker.
Yeah.
You don't think it's just coming through your. Was that just a camera?
It's not. It's both. The camera's not. Is that better, Linda?
I'm hearing you.
Test 1, 2, 3. Testing.
That's better.
Okay, I'll just make sure and speak loudly. All right. People at Hickory Tree are gonna come over and wonder what's going on.
Oh, I doubt that.
All right, back to where we were. Discuss, consider, and take action on the approval of the meeting minutes from November 9th, 2020. Were there any questions from that one?
I don't have any.
No, I have none.
No.
No.
Okay.
So I move that we approve the November 9th meeting minutes.
I second that motion.
Okay, show of hands. That was unanimous.
So were you able to hear me any better?
Yes.
Okay. So I was going to try to just join the.
Oh, you're going to call in?
Well, I was going to, but if they can hear me, then I'll work.
All right. Item D, review the year-to-date financial statements as of December 31st, 2020. Is that the most recent? Yeah, okay.
I'm not sure what you've seen before. You mentioned that you thought there was something different. I don't know what, I'm not sure what y'all have been provided, but these statements come off of the new software that we have been loading into the system for the last several months. As we transitioned into that system to do the budgeting, and it's the same system that's tied into court citations, utility billing, payroll. It's everything. It's the total system of the city. So some of this may just be different breakdowns you haven't seen. I also noticed that you have a statement of the revenue bonds in here. Joshua Station utilities, we're starting to see some movement out there in your expenditures on page 1. The expense summary, it shows $1,938 were spent. And if you haven't noticed, there's dirt turning out there now. We've got some utility fees that has gotten that program started. And there was a few things that Josh put through in the few days up to before he left. So that's what those expenses there are. I don't know what other things there really hasn't been much change other than those expenditures. And from where you are, we're not seeing any big drawdowns for the construction, which may start. We signed the final documents for the hooded left today. Okay. With TxDOT, so I'm assuming they will. Those bids were extended until tomorrow because of an addendum that was added at the last minute. So we'll have those bid openings tomorrow. And you'll see those next month.
All right.
But unless you have some specific questions, the only thing that I questioned with finance today was there's an expense here for economic development for $833. I think that's in the wrong spot. It's also in Tapnee's financials. They just got it, the account coded wrong. That's the monthly portion that comes out of Type A funds. It goes into the general fund. For some reason, they've got it coded economic development, and it should be somewhere else. They're going to fix that. It's the same way in Tapnee. They just got it in the wrong line.
I don't have any questions.
So what percent of the year is this covered through?
23.74, I do believe.
Correct. It'll be the first quarter, October, November, December.
Okay. That's my quick cheat sheet. Is I just look and see how much of the year, accounting year we're into. If we've been in 25%, I look to see 25% in the budget. You know, that kind of making sure the number goes. That's the number. And sometimes they would say that at the top, how much of the year was in. All right. Excuse me. Anybody online have any questions or comments?
I don't have any.
No, I don't have.
No.
No, not at this time.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to move on to E, discuss, consider, and possible action on approving the use of the facility on 12th Street and Beach as downtown parking.
Okay, this board owns property that is directly across the street that borders Beach from the east, 14th from the south, and then there's an alleyway along the west side, and then there's a private residence to the north. This is the same area that years back there was some discussion about a food truck park, and then there's discussion about just an outdoor kind of entertainment venue, and then it's just kind of set. And so the last few conversations that have been had has really been centered on parking because of the way downtown has progressed. We've got a couple more spots that are due to open up soon that Chris Maddox owns that are adjacent to the Hickory Tree and where the Rumsfeld property begins and ends. And then they've also got a signed contract for the new building that's down just across the street from the church and from the Masonic Lodge, I'm sorry. There's a Mexican food restaurant coming in there. That is a signed, done deal. They're making the renovations in there now. My understanding is they're planning for an opening sometime in mid-February. and that seems to be on track.
And that's the new building?
Yes, the new one over, I think that's 10th.
Mm-hmm.
It's just on the other side there. So we're working on getting that finished out. It's called, I don't remember, but it's a Mexican food, Tex-Mex. I think we're going to be the Mexican food capital in North Texas. Anyway,
Set down restaurant.
Yes, that's correct. And parking is already challenging, especially on the weekends. That Hickory Tree, and I mean that thing is just booming. So we've talked about a parking lot over there, but we have spent a pretty significant amount on parking already downtown. $40,000 3-4 years ago. And then we absorbed some more out of Public Works, redid 10th Street, redid parking, about $18,000 worth there. And so this time we negotiated an agreement with the developer who's going to fund 100% of the parking lot up front. We will provide the space. Type A will retain ownership, and they will be paid out from sales tax revenues generated in the downtown area. And we can disperse that amongst all of the businesses. Hickory Tree will pay. The beauty parlor doesn't really do any sales tax for the most part. Most of their services are tax exempt. But what's that other restaurant in there?
Mojo's.
Mojo's will pay. Chris Maddox, the new buildings will also pay, as will the new Mexican food restaurant that runs that building he has. All of those downtown areas, their sales tax portions can be applied to pay that back. So we don't take a hit. And then when it's paid for, Type A still has ownership of the parking lot. There's a rendering of what the parking lot is projected to look like, along with the rendering of the building that he's going to build right here on this vacant corner. And they're going to be built at the same time in conjunction with one another. And he's proposing a 5,500 square foot retail space. And then this parking lot over here on the beach, it'll be lighted, it'll have landscaping. There'll be a privacy fence across this back portion to protect that homeowner there from, she was concerned about lights and shining into her home at night, car lights. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna, it'll have a privacy fence too. And he's got some additional plans downtown, but they're still tweaking on some things there. But this will provide parking close enough walking proximity to these other areas across the street and this building right here.
Okay, so Mike, this was brought to us months ago, and I see the change now is we're going to spread that tax. What do we call that? Payback.
It's going to be done through sales tax and a 380 agreement. 380. Okay.
That originally was talked about only being paid back by this new building on the corner. And so we had some issues with that. I don't know how many people remember that.
No, I think it was always just with Rumfield and general.
Yeah, the problem with just that one building
that's what we didn't.
It was hard to get a pro forma because nobody knows what's going in there.
Right.
So what we did, and plus we don't want to pay for it forever. So to get it in and done, if we take the sales tax from everything in this heritage district, which could use this, it'll be public parking. It'll pay it back in just about 3 years.
Okay, that was my
based on the pro formas. We also got the interest rate lowered. They asked for 8%. We gave them 4%. They were okay with that. And then the pro formas look like I think they're a little bit conservative numbers once this other one opens up. And right now they do not include Maddox's property. And so I think this will get paid off fairly quick.
Do they only, but it includes more than the existing businesses, right? It's making an assumption on the others.
Anything that comes, yeah, it's assumptions on the others. But they're pretty conservative assumptions.
Okay, do we have any current existing 380 agreements with Rumfield or with any of those businesses?
We do not. We do not have any current 380. Well, we have one in Joshua Station.
Okay, so the parking that we paid for around that new building or whatever that agreement was, didn't we contribute towards the parking there? That's
they paid part and we paid part.
And that's resolved, right? But is it resolved?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Side note, the parking between the Hickory Tree and Mojo's and the railroad tracks, we paid for that parking behind there at one point. That's what you mentioned about taking from the city.
Yes, we did. No. Type A initially spent $40,000. We paved behind that building. We paved beside the police department in the building, right here off of 14th Street. That's in between the PD and Hickory Tree. Then we resealed in front of Hickory Tree. We also put the parking that runs down back between the church and Young Life. We put those spaces in for that $40,000. Then last year, Public Works put in. We were going to redo 10th Street anyway, so we went ahead and repaved our right-of-way for the new building that's sitting at 10th and Main, and then we redid what was beside it's a dog grooming or veterinary place there, and so all that is public park. The city has built about 65 parking spaces, the city in Type A, and then this will be
downtown.
I'm sorry?
Downtown?
Yes.
So that was going to be my question: is how utilized is that parking lot behind the building between the railroad tracks and the building?
Employees mainly.
Okay.
Are back there. And we're fixing to add a few more from Public Works behind where Chris Maddox is for some of their employees to park where it's grass. We've just been waiting on him to get finished because they were putting in utilities and they had some in-ground grease traps for the restaurants to put in to meet JSUD's requirements, the buildings that previously didn't have them. And so now that that's done, we're just waiting to see what goes in there to make sure that it's sized appropriately before we lay asphalt over. But that's already figured in Public Works budget this year, so that'll be covered. And then they are paying for some additional park. I say Robbie has offered to pay for some additional parking on where Public Works is right now to resurface and fence off an area that they're going to start channeling staff to, and that'll free up those areas back behind their building and then up along the fence at Public Works. Okay. And that's probably still not going to be enough, but that's almost going to be the extent of what we can do because it fills up now. Okay. During the day, at lunchtime, it stays pretty full. And weekends, I'm told, I have not been down on weekends. I drove through Saturday night and everything was filled up, but I understand it's that way pretty regularly.
So last time, several of us were really in favor of Joshua having that parking lot and it not being sold off and being a private parking lot where it's not, it'd just be restricted and whatnot.
Right.
Even though we're kind of concerned about who will be trying to use the parking lot. But the other big sticking point about it at the time was, what's TxDOT going to do with 917?
Well, and we've had some conversations about that, and that's another reason why we wanted to retain ownership of it. Even if they come down and take part of it, they're going to pay us for that part, and we're still going to own the rest. But I mean, just as a personal opinion from somebody that's looked at the numbers, I don't see any way that TxDOT will come to the realization that that is the route. I mean, it almost doubles the cost of the
What is their alternative then? Because I thought
12th Street, which is where it was.
and And how does that impact that house? I thought,
Well, you know, the interesting thing about that house is we were told the sticking point is not so much that house. The sticking point was who was going to pay to move that house. TxDOT can't pay for it. The owner didn't think he should have to pay for it if he was donating it. And when I found that out, I called them both a week ago, well, just before Christmas, and told them the city would pay to move it if that solves the problem. Happily pay to move it. And they've donated to the Johnson County Historical Society. We'll
and the Historical Society is okay with it being moved?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's new.
They've always been willing to accept it. I didn't know, we did not know here that the sticking point was who was going to pay. This is probably going to cost, you know, 15 grand or so to move it. I mean, it is what it is. But whether they move it or not, millions of dollars will be added to the cost if they come down 14th Street.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, 12th Street. And I just don't see it happening. And if it does, they'll pay us for the parking lot.
That was our biggest, our biggest concern is just how that's going to impact it and how soon it would be and what the impact would be and what's the impact going to be to the businesses.
Well, and it's already in the millions, but you know, Rumsfeld's fixing to spend another $2 million or so on this bit, $1.5 million on this bill.
But even still, even if TxDOT knew exactly what they were going to do, I mean, really, and I know you can't predict, and I know you can't make any definitive, but realistically, do you see anything happening with that within the 3 years that it would probably take to pay this?
Realistically, I don't see it happening in our lifetime. This has been,
that's what I was concerned
this
about.
has been a 20-year conversation. This is not new.
No, they've been talking about it as long as I've been in Joshua too, which is why.
So my concern about only the one business paying it back, we didn't know what kind of revenue we'd be getting from that. It was going to drag out forever. And then what kind of contractual thing would get into a mess if TxDOT came through and paid us?
Right.
Who gets the money then? If they spend all
that's
the
why
money,
we wanted to use them
that was just
all.
going to get ugly.
It'll pay for itself in about 3 years. We'll be done with it. And if TxDOT comes through in 3 years, then they pay us. The loan will be, everything will be done.
And then lastly, we've done the calculations, and if all those businesses are getting a tax abatement, the taxes being diverted to pay this debt off, our budgets are all going to be okay with that,
yes,
taking that hit. It's new business we're not accounting for right now, any progress, most of it. Okay, just want to just ask that.
My only other question is the resident that in that adjacent property, have they expressed any?
Yeah, I spoke to her today. She came in. The only thing she wants is she's concerned that the survey matches hers. I told her that was no problem. We'll sit down and take a look at that. And she wants to replace the fence. She's got a chain link fence, and she said that some storm blew part of it down again, and she was concerned about that fence. I told her we were going to put up a privacy fence to separate it, and that would help her with the lights, and she's fine. She doesn't care that it's a parking lot. She just wanted, she wasn't going to build a new fence if we were going to.
Right.
And I told her it was in our plan. So.
Okay, so the reason I asked about how much the parking lot behind the building is getting utilized, because I figure a lot of people aren't going to want to walk all the way around that building anyway. There's spaces back there, and so with this, that alleyway right there, in other words, to walk from this parking lot to cut across to even that new Mexican food restaurant you mentioned, you're doing some zigzagging through some streets here and whatnot.
Well, there'll be some
have we proposed a walkway? I wonder about that alley. If it would be a lit.
The alley is going to be
corridor.
resurfaced as well.
So we will, and that's on our bill to make. Right.
Yeah, well, it'll be built with this building, with the parking lot. The number includes resurfacing the alleyway, putting sidewalks down both sides of it.
Yeah, as long as
we have to do that for ADA.
I'm just because I want to make it to where people will say, yes, that's my parking spot because I can cut straight through and I'm on the street.
Yeah, we're going to give access to Main Street from about beside the Young Life building where that parking is. They'll also have access to come out to 14th and walk down that way, and then go through, stop the crosswalk.
Okay, because I can see eventually that Young Life building being something else going on that lot.
Well,
they're
they're
going to cut straight across anymore.
Well, you own the front of that lot too. Well, the city might own it.
That was the old fire department.
Yeah, I think the city has that one, but we, Mr. Rumsfeld is working on, they're trying to buy that existing building. One of the things they're talking about is he's willing to give Young Life space in this new one for the same amount of money. I don't know how that has played out yet. He's working with them to do that. But Mr. Mallory, who owns that, doesn't want to put them out. And Young Life has made plans to purchase it themselves. So that's not a done deal yet. We have assured them that we will not block their access to Main Street. We're not going to do that. But what they wanted to build, if he gets that, he wants to put an outdoor, like a music venue or something like that for the weekends every now and then, or that's what he's kind of talked about, an outdoor seating area. But that's, I don't know that, I did not get the impression when I spoke to Mr. Mallory last that there's any real motivation for him to sell that yet.
Until his kids are set up, then hopefully not. And my understanding is he is very firm on keeping those kids in a position, you know, in that building.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to, he's been working with them for a while, and I mean, that's a great organization over there.
Yes, it is.
I've been fortunate enough to go to a couple of their annual banquets that they do, little dinner they do, and I mean,
and those kids put blood, sweat, and tears in putting that together.
They did. They worked very hard to build it. It's really neat on the inside. I've never been in there. It's they worked hard. So we've talked about other spaces for them too.
All right. So in my opinion, the things that made us table this whole parking lot thing months ago have kind of, you know, these new developments have changed it in my eyes to where I feel better about it.
Yes. Are there anyone else?
So we've been the only ones talking about this. Anybody online have questions or comments that they want to make?
Now, I'm very pleased with the prospects, with the new decisions on how it's going to be done, and that the other businesses are going to be paying back with their sales tax, and looks good.
I agree.
Okay, so contractually, the businesses, so let's just say on X date, they pull the trigger. Now these, I'm making up a number, 5 businesses, their tax revenue is going in to pay that back. And the day after that happens, a new business buys a piece of property and wants to go in this corner, and they're not part of that.
There's no want, they automatically come in. We determine that.
That's part
They're
of
going to pay sales tax anyway. What we do with it is our decision. Our decision here has been that everybody that pays down here goes to pay back this debt.
Okay, so is there a boundary being drawn, or is
the heritage overlay?
Okay, we're following. Okay.
Yeah. The pro formas are about 110,000 annually, and I think that's a conservative number. We have based the payout on a $75,000 payment. That's the minimum that we will pay, and that gives us a little less than 3 years, and then it's done.
And there again, that's already been calculated in with our budgets and taken that hit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So how long do we think this construction would take?
I don't know. His banker is waiting on this to, well, not y'all's. The council will have to ratify this because the agreement is actually with the city, not the Type A board.
Right.
So if the council agrees to it, which we believe they will next Thursday, then it's a matter of, he's already got everything ready to go. He'll start pulling permits. His plans are done. He'll have to go through a little bit of, I think, some platting process, clean up a few things, old things on that property.
Jay said
but he'll be ready to start turning dirt, I would think, fairly quick. And he's hopping to go. So. Okay,
and since this seems like a little bit of an unusual arrangement that they're paying for it and then get reimbursed for it, what kind of oversight do we have into managing that project costs and those kind of things?
We have complete. He doesn't get a dime until it's done and signed off on by the city.
And all fair and just reasonable costs.
Yeah, and that's all stipulated in the 380 agreement. And then I just looked at the changes we wanted. We added a 2-year maintenance warranty on the parking lot, and then we added the language for the $75,000 because that gives us a target date to have it paid for. Okay. And if it generates $150,000 in the first year, then they'll get $150,000. We want it paid for as quick as it can.
Right.
Play out.
And then, is there any concern with the apartment complex trying to use it?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, you may have some of that, but just because it's public parking doesn't mean we can still sign it, put a sign on it, and say that it's for the businesses downtown. All others could be towed.
Even time limits.
Yeah.
Most people come to dinner,
yeah,
2 to 3 hours.
I don't. That was one of the problems. Another one of the problems that came up if we sold it to them, because I could see that being an issue. I've already spoke with the police chief. We've already found out what we have to put some signs up. We have to have a contract with a 24-hour towing company, which we already have. So it's not a big deal to do if enforcement becomes an issue. But we've already visited with the apartment people, and they're going to work with us about letting the residents know they're not supposed to park over there, and they could be towed. And okay, hopefully it won't be a problem.
Well, I can't think of any other questions to ask about it.
I feel completely different about it than I did when I walked in the door.
Nobody online has any other questions. So
I've done my job.
You have.
Well, luckily this wasn't the first. You weren't hitting us with the first go round. You know what I mean?
I didn't know what company on before.
Yeah, first go around, I was
oh, really?
not convinced.
Yeah.
Josh.
Yes. Couple times, yes. So it says possible action. You said that it's not ours to make the final decision.
Well,
we just have to give you an okay.
You have the decision on the property.
On the property, yeah.
So you decide what y'all need to vote on tonight is, yes, you're agreeing to allow a parking lot to be built on your property. And then if the council, their action will be to approve the 380 agreement funding.
So I move that we approve the proposed parking agreement for 12th Street and Beach as discussed.
I'll second.
Show of hands. All right, that looks like everyone again. How about that?
We got a partial one.
We're all laying down for Mike here. Roll over it.
That's just my smiling face. You missed me so much.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if everybody knows Mike or not.
My mug will be the one you're seeing in here for the foreseeable future. So,
Where's Josh?
Congratulations. Congratulations.
David just asked.
I'm
I
sorry.
asked about, I got in at 6:30, so I didn't hear about Josh.
Josh is no longer with the city. He accepted a position in the city of Converse,
Judson, something like that.
Converse,
Really?
down by San Antonio, southeast of San Antonio. He started there today as an assistant city manager. It's a population of, it's about like Burleson. It's about 32 or 3,000 people.
Wow.
So he's going to be heading up all of the things I was heading up here.
And you're sliding into his spot.
A few other things, but he was ready to move on to some bigger and better things. And
yeah.
so he's off to the races.
And so is your old spot been filled? How does that?
No. I'll look at it here in the near future. Right now, we'll let it ride for a little bit. There's some people that we want to talk to. I'm not sure what exactly type of person I want in there. I'm thinking about.
I thought you were going to say you don't know exactly what they were doing.
No, I'm trying to find out where I can get the most bang for the buck. I'd like to bring planning in-house. There's a lot of things that I want to do that position could help fund. And so I'm just kind of snooping around. I've talked to a CPA, maybe a finance-driven person that can help with all of these bonds that are out now and chasing grant money. You know, there's a lot of grants out there if you know how to navigate those circles. So we're gonna take a look at this thing. So I expect in the next few months I'll kind of know what direction it's going to go.
All right. Well, then item F, future agenda items or requests made by director. Anybody?
I don't have anything.
I don't.
Well,
I don't.
Agenda item, but I'm going to request it again. This was another example where a map, whether it be electronic or a detailed downtown map. I know we have that, but a detailed downtown map that you can point out the laser pointer, or if it was online to be talking about. Every time we go to talk about where we are and buildings and anything going on here in downtown, I always wish we had a map. I've asked a couple of times if we could have a better map that we could use as a visual aid in these discussions. Okay. I don't know if it costs money to get that done or what. But maybe it's just me.
No, I agree. But
Well, we have several.
When we were at home doing meetings, I just Googled it and figured out pulled up a Google map to see what we were.
Well, and yeah, even I guess in here that
We have several maps that we can probably don't need it to be a geographic view like that one.
No, like this, I mean, even just this type was helpful as far as what's this business here, what's this, you know.
Either way, I just, you know, because it helps me about where proposed things were. And once I see it, you know, and oh, that's right, we talked about that building 2 years ago, or that property, and, you know, those kind of things. You know. Okay.
We'll keep that.
I think it would help me, you know, whatever. All right, well, then if there's nothing else, it looks like 7:07. We will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.